Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome to Fun with Relux.
Episode 14.
14.
GLDF 2.
No, now it's GLDF 2.
Yeah. It's we make a new GLDF because some things happens and we want to keep you up to date what happens with GLDF because it's a very exciting theme.
We have some news. Yeah,
we have some news, and we will directly start with the presentation because it is we cannot explain so many about GLDF, or it's too difficult for us. It's much easier when we show you what's new. Sorry, we have a little bit of trouble here with our with our hardware system, with our presentation. Yeah. Yes, Robert, what can we show about GLDF now? We have some new tools, some new features, and we want to present it to you. Also, we will start with a small look inside of GLDF. And so which file format is GLDF in reality?
Yeah, this is GLDF 2, this episode, because we already had GLDF 1 in the really beginning of this Fun with Relux episodes. And in the past, 1.5 years ago, we can just show you the principle, the theory of this format for luminas. But today, after a certain period of time, we can show you a bit of more praxis. So how this file format looks, how we can create it. We can look in an example, and we have a bit of more of tooling. By end of March of this year, we had provided via GLDF.io a couple of tools, first public tools available for everybody to use for everybody. And with tools, you can now check GLDF files, but also create GLDF files, including the geometry. And this is something we want to show you today, not in detail. This is not possible because of our timeline, but we want to show you an impression of these tools that you can, if you're interested in going deeper by yourself. And yeah, that's why we wanted to do GLDF again in this Fun with Relux frame. And yeah, and we hope we show you a lot, so it's more and more practical thing. We do not need to discuss a lot. It's just to show you what it is today about GLDF with the latest creations and latest news about this data format. Maybe before we start, some main
there is one point to remember. This format is not only developed by us, by RELUX. It is a cooperation from RELUX and Dialux together. So we will develop the tools we are showing in this episode. We will develop them together with Dialux, and this gives you as a user or as a manufacturer the possibility to develop a file format or create file luminaire definitions, which can be used in the most used light calculation programs, and as we will see later, also in many other programs, like in BIM software or CAD software.
Yeah, the other thing is the GLDF is free. It's in a way owned by Dial and RELUX. So yes, but it's publicly available. You can use it for free. You can create it for free. You can use the structure. The documentation is open. The structure is open also for the geometry. We like to call it open source. So with an MIT license for experts. This means you can really do anything with it commercially, privately, whatever you want. You can use it in any way. RELUX and Dialux just care about the structure, so we keep the ownership on it in order to make a further development on it in a streamlined way from our both software houses, but together always. Good. So this is the point where we can share the screen and show you what it is. And here you can see a GLDF file on my desktop here. And yeah, the GLDF files looks like a normal file. There's nothing fancy about this. And the GLDF file is just a zip container. GLDF is nothing else than in zip, so we can change the file name suffix from GLDF to zip, and then you have a really zip file. And this is also the way you can investigate the content of GLDF. You can just, here in my case, right-click and say Open Archive with 7-zip, for example, but works with any other zip tool. And you can see that it's just a zip container. And in the zip container, you have the assets. So, for example, the geometry. We have here 2 L3D geometry files. We have with GLDF and created a new geometry file format. So it's not R3D as it is in the past for the current situation for RELUX, and not M3D as it is for Dialux. Now it's L3D with GLDF. It's also open. I will show you later what it's got. And for this later, I just make a copy for this geometry file on my desktop to show you later how this looks and how this will be created. And we have here, for example, images. You can just click on it and see the images which is in this GLDF container. You can, of course, put anything you want to have, and also LDCs in it. And there's a couple of more possible folders. It's just a short example with a couple of information. And main importantly for the structure of this Lumina in this file format is the product XML. The product XML has to have this name product XML, not something else XML. It has to be a product XML. This is one of the rules by creating the zip container. The rules how to create a zip container and the structure of the XML you find on GLDF.io. On GLDF.io you have all the rules, all the structure you need in order to create GLDF for your own. I also make a copy out of this product XML on the side because I want to show you what is inside this, let's say, structure-giving XML file. And yeah, this is the next what I want to show you, this product XML. And yeah, this looks like this. I will zoom in a bit. So this is an XML file. And in this file, we have some components like a header. This is a bit of boring here. Then we have here, for example, the files, the asset files we have. So here the local files, the LDCs, 3 LDCs, 2 geometries. Yeah, here tagged with an ID, with an identifier that we can use it. And we have here the general definitions. In this general definitions, we have, for example, the files, the photometrics. Here we have a couple of properties on the photometrics on this 3 LDCs we have here included. This is was created by hand by me, but is something which later comes hopefully out of a PIM system or other software or databases to fill it in here. Beside the photometry, I just show you the structure in this theme file in this XSD. We are here in general definitions, and here we can allocate files, sensors, photometrics, spectrums, light sources, control gears, equipments, emitters, geometries, and so on. And this is some kind of setup. Here we set the file, the structure, the gears, the equipment. We putting it just together. And here is not in the creation of Lumina. Here we just set everything which we might need in order to create this product. So you can put in here any LDC you have, any geometry you have, you can put it everything here, but the usage of this happens later on in the product definition. This is the some kind of setup file. And you can also see it here in our file. We have here the photometric. Then we have here the light sources. Light source a bit, we have just 3 properties on the light sources, and we have 3 light sources, light source 2, light source 3, just as an example, with a name and some properties. The control gear, just 1 property. And here we have the first more interesting part is the emitters. In the emitters, we have also 3 emitters, because we have 3 LDCs. Anyway, this is the logic here. But it's also possible to create multiple emitters with just 1 LDC. It must not be 1-to-1. And in the emitter, we have some kind of fusion of lamp, of photometric, and also of control gear, if you have one. And you can bound this together to an emitter and put this emitter on the light output on the geometry later on. So here we fuse together lamp, photometric, and control gear to one entity, and this entity you can place on the lumina itself later on. This is the emitters. Geometry is also quite simple. We just put in here with identifiers geometry from the files. Here we can set the level of detail. You can set low, medium, and high to the geometry file in order to use it later on in variants in a different level of details. So, and this is general definition, and now we are in product definition. I show you on the scheme. This is the general definitions. We are finished in this example, and now we go to product definition. And here happens the magic of the real product properties, starting with product metadata. Here we have something like number, name, product series, pictures, properties, a lot of properties here also in different categories like mechanical, electrical, emergency, marketing, and so on. Also the maintenance stuff. Maintenance is quite interesting on this, but it's cost us too much time to go in detail into it. And besides this metadata of the complete GLDF product, we have variants. And in this variants, we have you can have infinite multiple variants on a product. And here we have also name and number, GTIN of the variant itself, tender text, mounting. And here we have the combination of geometry and the emitter from the definitions. Maybe you are confused. I show it to you in the sample. In the sample, we have here two variants and with text and so on in two languages. This is really multi-language. You have a language indicator, and you can place as much as you have languages in your PIM system, names, numbers, and text into it. And we have here multiple images. You can put in a lot of images to it, not just one. Here we have a couple of other properties of the variants. And where we have the fusion of the geometry. Did I skip this? Yeah, other text. Here we have it. Here we have it. Here we have geometry, and in the geometry, we have the reference to the geometry model from the file above. And then we have here the emitter. The emitter is put to an light output object called Leo. This is the name of the light output out of the geometry. So in the geometry, in the LCD file, there is a name of any light output, and this name you have to place in here, and then to put the emitter from above to this light output, and then your lumina is having a light distribution. This happens here, and we have two light outputs. One light was called fixed Leo, and the other is rotatable Leo. These are the two outputs of this geometry. And here we can see mountings, ground, freestanding. So this is a freestanding lumina we can see here. And this has rate. And here we have variant number 2. Variant number 2 is quite the same, just with another geometry B, which I just make the same geometry, just painted black in order to see a difference. But it could be also a complete other geometry in principle with complete other outputs. And also here I changed here another light emitter to it. Okay, so this is, now we have an image of the structure of a GLDF file. It's straightforward XML.
I guess it's I guess for some it's still interesting to realize that GLDF is not a new photometric file. Sometimes we hear that people think that it is a photometric file format for replacing IES or OILMDAT, or it is a geometrical file format. That's not the case. The geometrical will be, we will see it later. We have also a new file format for the geometric. Mm-hmm. The photometric files are still the same as we had it before, OILMDAT, IES, maybe the new IES file. Mm-hmm. But in the GLDF, this information will always only be linked from outside, inside of the structure, and the GLDF defines all the metadata and the construction of the luminaire, depending on what Robert explains, variants and such things.
Yeah. So if you normal Olmdat files, but it's also possible to take other photometrics. So this is not a photometric file. It's just combines photometrics and geometry to in Lumina. It's a Lumina file format, compatible to ROLF or ULD, and not to Olmdat or IES. Yeah.
Can we show how we can create such a file?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, with pleasure. And yeah, we have. I said it already. We have since March this year. This is the wrong one. We have on GLDF.io published tools, two public tools. One is the L3D editor and one is the GLDF editor. I'm starting with the L3D editor. This L3D editor is for the geometry. It looks like this. I have it open 2 times. This is a construct where we can put geometry together. And before we going to put our Lumina into this, I have here extracted the L3D file already out of my GLDF container. And surprise, this L3D file is also a zip container. And you can also open up this L3D geometry file with an unzipping tool. And here we have also an XML file, not product. We have here structure XML, and the structure XML, I do not open it, no worries. Is also the additionally parts of the geometry which we have in lighting. So for example, this light output or illuminated surface elements, joints, and so on. And the basic structure of L3D is OBG, object meshes.
It's an open source mesh format which is used by many 3D modelers, or can handle by many 3D modelers, exported, imported, and so you can work with many modelers to create this element things. But finally, for light, we need still some more information. Will be typically not in place of normal geometrical files like Blender or everything else. And for that reason, we have created the L3D, which combines the meshes into a Lumina model. And inside the L3D editor, you have now the possibility to add all the information which are necessary for luminaires and light.
Yeah.
So you have to define where is the light output, what is additional geometry, or which is geometry, real geometry.
Yes. Yeah. Here, for example, the L3D file out of my sample GLDF, and yeah, as Klaus said, you need to have this OBJ geometry objects from a modeler, from in 3D model application like Blender, for example. This is in software for free, Blender, for example, also open source. And you need to create in some other application the basics of the geometry. So L3D editor is not a modeler. You cannot put together simple objects to create complex objects. You have to import models. So you have to import the base elements here, and you can simply put together in a relation, an offset to it to a full Lumina. And most important for Luminas, of course, is to have the light outputs. You can place, drag, drop, and edit in all kinds, which is possible. This light outputs, you can create this light outputs and put it to your geometry. This is from above, and also you can put to this light outputs fitting light emitting surfaces. We need to select the head, and here you can create light emitting surfaces which are then glowing to the lumina. So for example, here we can select some faces of the wrong face in order to now the complete head is glowing if it's switched on in a lighting design application. And also besides this light output stuff, you can set joints, for example, and these joints you can also click here. Not another joint, this joint here, and this joint is also properties like step width, default angles, axis. You can really do a lot of joints,
Ranges of actuals.
Ranges, step width, defaults. So a lot of stuff you can set to the joints, more than in the past. And this is also possible. You can have multiple joints on it, and you can really do a lot of interesting luminars with it. And besides these joints, you can also set quite easily sensor positions, also electrical connector positions on the geometry. Pendant points is also possible to set on this geometry. And yeah, and then you are set and done, and you can save it on your local hard drive, and then you have your L3D together. This is possible with this tool. If you are finished with your L3D geometry, you can go a step on and go to the GLDF editor. GLDF editor combines, I can show you also in practice, I simply drag and drop here my GLDF file. And with this, you have an overview of the content of the GLDF without looking on XML sheets. So it could be a bit of boring. Here you have it graphically. You have here the two variants we have spoken about. Here I've just changed one of the two LDCs I changed here in this variant. You can edit this variant. You can upload new files to this, and you can really create an GLDF file here from the beginning with your geometry, with your LDCs, with your pictures, with properties. You can manipulate the header, the general definitions, the metadata, and so on. You can really doing here a lot, but always just for one GLDF file. It's not a tool for a batch process. It's a tool to create and investigate in single GLDF files. Yeah, and this is, yeah.
Finally, it is not a target that the luminaire manufacturer creating a lot of models inside of this tool. The target at the end is a little bit that he uses his PIM system or PIM systems to create the files automatically out from the information out of his other systems.
Yeah,
and this tool is a little bit for to get experience, to make some corrections, maybe for some smaller points. We have a new file, we want to create a new GLDF file for a special luminaire or something like that.
Yeah, to customize it also is possible for the designers to create something for themselves with this tool. It's available for everybody for free. And yeah, but it just can do one after another, and it makes no sense if you have a couple of thousand luminars in your portfolio to do it this way. It's too expensive. And on the other side, we have the open available structure, which is easily to create by a PIM system. So if you managed to create WAL files in the past, so this is nothing really special and different. So you can also create GLDF files. Yeah, you can also here save and download the GLDF files. If you are done with it, you have also here some kind of short validation of the file, but it's just a technical validation. It's not going into the content. It just tells you, okay, this is formed well, the structure. And this both tools, the L3D editor and the GLDF editor, are available on GLDF.io, and with a short explanation what it is and what you can do with it. And this is available since March this year, so it's also a bit of old. What is not available, but which I also want to show you because it will be available soon. This is the GLDF checker. We call this the GLDF checker. Should tell everybody, designers, but also manufacturers, what is inside a GLDF. This is one of the new things on this data format. It's quite open. You can create a GLDF file just out of an olm.dat file. This is possible, or just with a name, so that the content is quite dynamic or flexible. You can create GLDF files with almost no content, or GLDF files with a lot of content. And this is not so fixed down as it was in the past with WAL files, for example, or ULD files, the same story. There's a fixed amount, you can fill it up, and then you know what is the content of a WAL file. So if you have a WAL file, most probably you have a geometry in it. And with a GLDF file, who knows? And this tool should allow everybody to investigate, to check what is the level of fulfillment, how much is inside a GLDF file. grouped in these categories. Here, for example, sensing or photometric, what is inside, and also this tool should tell you what is missing in properties to this category. Why I have just the half of this photometric. Here you can see what is missing. This tool is not finished. It's not publicly available because we have some issues here. This is a different GLDF version number, so it's 0.9, and we have here an 1.0 version of GLDF, and so we have some mismatches. Normally it should be quite higher here in this, and you can also check with the checker what are the properties in detail. Here behind is an Excel sheet with all the properties for these categories here, for these groups, and also for these applications, and you can investigate what it is, and also you can share this knowledge about the GLDF files with the manufacturers, for example, or with other colleagues about this, and just give away this knowledge about the level of filling of the GLDF file. Okay, so this is about the checker. Give us a couple of days, and it's also published via GLDF.io later on. The next and interesting thing is we have investigated in the last weeks and months a lot into RELUX Desktop. Of course, we want to have RELUX Desktop be available to read in GLDF files, and we have created a beta version. So this is not available right now. This is a beta version, an internal beta and closed beta version of RELUX Desktop, but where we can put GLDF files. So I put here, sorry, in RELUX Desktop in the beta version, the GLDF files via drag and drop, and place this Lumina here. And now we can see in 3D that we really have this freestanding Lumina out of the GLDF in RELUX Desktop. Looks like Rolf, so it's nothing else, but we are happy that it looks like Rolf and not something else. And we have the first small benefits of GLDF into it. So for example, we can have the variants on it, for example. So we have to select the Lumina, go to the properties, and we have here a configuration dialog, and we have here the variant number 1, and we can add here another variant. This is variant number 2. This is has a black housing. I see it here. We have typed in the XML S2 instead of S2, and you can also change between the different emitters on it. So it's possible to have here the different light outputs with, if available, different emitters, different lamp sets, different LDCs. Here we have just one, so there's not a big of selection. We have just one, but if we have multiple, then it would be putting in this column here, and I add this version 2 and activate this 2, and you can see now I have the black version of this with a different LDC. If you can see, now it's more Lambertian, and if I switch back, you can see this is now a bit more focused, the direct part. Okay, it's also possible to have this joint stuff, so we can have this joints working in this version. And of course, it's also possible to make a calculation out of it. And here in the calculation, you can also see an interesting feature. In the calculation, you can see that the head elements were measured geometry. This means this geometry is not interfering with light, and the stand is a non-measured geometry part which interacts with light, and especially on a freestanding Lumina, it makes really sense that we have also light on the stand, and in the other part not. And that also in this view you can see, okay, this stand is also illuminated by the Lumina itself, and this
creates also a shadow on the floor, and
And here also shadows. If we can also make more calculation time for more resolution. Here it's quite fast one, but as you can see, there's also shadows of the freestanding luminas, and also here this part of the luminas also a light emitting surface created in the L3D editor. This shape. So this is quite good and quite interesting to see. One short piece we also want to show you.
A small cookie at the end, which it has nothing to do with the GLDF, but it is inside of this beta version, and so we want to show you. We have this the printout we will spend the printout much more quality by using the formula signs as they are printed in standards with this deep small setting behind the letters E min, E maintained, with this line above the E, which it indicates that it means the average and so on.
Yeah.
We hope you liked it.
Yeah, it's also now RUG and not UGR. This is so also following the new standards. Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, let's take a look to the questions.
Yeah, but before we go to the question, one word about this beta version. This with this new formula identifiers. This will be quite soon in the normal version of RELUX Desktop, but the beta version with the GLDF possibilities, we will be have in a closed beta for a couple of months. I'm quite sure. This is a beta version where we want to try out with manufacturers the workflow of GLDF files. So the manufacturers can create GLDF files in a sandbox environment, work with their PIN systems, work by hand, check all the possibilities to create these files, and then they can, with this beta version, test it. They can test and see how their changes in GLDF will look like in a real lighting design application. And also Dialux will join by hopefully beginning of next year with a beta version with this GLDF capabilities, and that we can synchronize RELUX, Dialux, and also the manufacturing data output together. And if this is done, then we will go to public with a normal RELUX desktop version with this GLDF in it. So it's not available right now for the publicity, so it's not an open beta. If you are a manufacturer and if you want to try out GLDF files and play with the sandbox capabilities, send me an email. You have my email if you are a member or a bigger manufacturer. And I have a list of potential beta test candidates for this GLDF stuff, and this will take months till we have it really tested, because the manufacturers has to create them and test it. So it's nothing for the publicity, this version. But I would just want to show you that we are going further with it and that we're making progress with GLDF, and soon, hopefully by early next year, you can also have this functionality in RELUX Desktop. Okay, then now we can go to the questions. I stop the sharing and open up the questions. And we have a couple of questions. First one, when, in brackets date, will be released the software GLDF? GLDF is not a software. GLDF is a data format, and the data format is available since March in version 1. It was available since more than a year, 1.5 years. Is GLDF available as the format. The software we have seen, the GLDF editor and the L3D editor, are available since March on the GLDF.io website. You can use it for free, and now they are released in a way. They are betas. There's not the mark that it's full release, but their applications are. I have to say that the L3D editor is quite close to a real published version. On the GLDF editor, if you work with it, you might find some issues. So this is in beta version of it. And as I said, the GLDF capabilities of RELUX Desktop will take a couple of months in order to test it with manufacturers, with real manufacturer output of product data.
Is GLDF equivalent to BIM? Yes and no. BIM is standing for Building Information Management, and GLDF, yes, GLDF is a format which is useful to use it inside of BIM. And we hope we will have one way we have the program RELUX Cut for Revit, which is a plugin for Autodesk Revit, and when in the future or in the near future we will be able to use the GLDF format there inside of this plugin. And we are also looking forward that other softwares outside of this context from RELUX, Dialux, and also we'll say Revit, let's say Archicad, Vectorworks, Bentley, whatever, can use this format in future. It's a little bit the problem that we first need to have the data from the manufacturers. It should be available, and then I guess or we hope so that this software will follow, and also you can read it and also in various BIM softwares.
Yeah. So next question, 3D in OBJ format. What are the possibilities to convert from the format currently by the industry towards OBJ? Does such conversion products a quantity 3D in OBJ? Otherwise, it is needed to rebuild a clean 3D in this format.
At the moment,
it's a bit of complicated. So OBJ is just, let's say, an primitive 3D object like 3ds, etc. So it's not, yeah, it's just in base. And OBJ is quite common, so you can really export from a lot of modelers OBJ. But of course, it depends on what you have in the past in format. So if you have everything in AutoCAD, then you need a kind of tool and add-on to create OBJs out of it. And the work to allocate light outputs, etc., this has to be added. This is not available in 3D objects in a way. So this is maybe if you have R3D models, so from the past, then it's possible to convert this into the new world. So if you're talking about 3D objects, this is something in similar, in different, in other level as luminar geometry. Because in luminar geometry we have this light outputs and so on. This is Leo LAS stuff and joints and so on. This is not available in normal 3D applications. So this means if you have R3D, it's possible to convert. But we decided to have this conversion just available in our house and not to give it away, these functionalities in a tool or in a software. This means you can send us your R3D files and we can convert it to you as L3D file, but not in the software with intent, because we want to change the market slowly to L3D. And if you provide tools which allows you to keep the old stuff running and you convert just in a new one, you're blocking the new possibilities of L3D if you are just stick to R3D. So we want you to go over to L3D as the new geometry format with a lot of more possibilities and also much more tooling options you have in it, and of course it's painful if you have the old stuff, and that's why we offer this to convert you into this L3D world, but just in our house and not on your drive, on your company.
Okay, next question is, so please could you send me the website to download the LS3D editor and the GLDF editor? So both are not downloadable tools. These are both online tools. They're running on the server. So simply go to GLDF.io and there you will find the links to the tools where you can work with them and test them.
Quite simple, GLDF.io. Just type you in a browser and there's a section called tools, and behind these tools you found these two editors and you can use it instantly in a browser. These are browser tools.
Can you bring a BIM RFR file into RELUX instead? So this is a totally different workaround. Maybe it will be possible in future. At the moment we will use or we will replace what we are actually doing with the Rolf. We will replace it with GLDF and we will create RFR files from GLDF. However, the BIM RFR files may also be useful to create the GLDF, or let's say the L3D geometry. But this is another use case, another background.
Actually, it's possible. You can, if you have our RELUX CAD for Revit product plugin running in Revit, you can take any RFR file with an IS file on it, and you can put it into RELUX Desktop. This is already possible, but just with this plugin. Without a plugin, RELUX Desktop will do nothing. But with this plugin, the plugin can convert RFA files into, let's say, raw files in our Lumina structure, and we can work with it. Yeah, we hope that the BIM authoring system is also going to GLDF, because GLDF has a bit of more capabilities as an RFA file. It's not just the geometry; it's also a lot of properties. You can of course, you can also set different properties and custom properties on a RFA file, but an RFA file has not let's say an LAO and LEO and light emitting object. You have just a point where you can put in an IS, but not an light output area where you can calculate layering, etc. That's not possible with RFA. And also the LES surfaces and the joint structure is a bit of different. There are options to create it, but it's not native in RFA file in a way. But yeah, it's possible to have an conversioning of these two worlds, and we are working on this. Okay, hello, is it possible to insert GLDF into Revit in the future? Good question. Answer was set. We are in contact with Autodesk, and
we will do it in our own plugin. With our own plugin, it will be possible.
Yeah.
Maybe if the format will be really bright, used a lot.
Yeah.
We have also the chance that Autodesk will also implement it as a native import format.
Yeah, these are the options. Our own plugin can easily work with it with GLDF in Revit. You can today drag and drop Rolfs and Olmdats directly into this Revit Lumina column, and later on we will also put in just directly GLDF into Revit. And without, we have to wait till the market pressure on Autodesk is so high, because everybody is using GLDF from the manufacturers, and then it's quite easy for Autodesk to implement, because the format is public available. Everybody can implement a GLDF in any software, and it's a bit of an hand and egg situation. We have enough of these formats in publicity, and then everybody will come to this format. Okay.
The next one is the idea that manufacturers will have only one GLDF file per Lumina model, and the GLDF file will contain all variants. It's not so, more or less, yes, but it's a little bit difficult. So in which context? GLDF is designed to have multiple variants, but I guess for the user, it is not useful if they have only one GLDF file for a complete family, maybe over the mounting that you have in one variant is the freestanding luminaire. The next variant is the pendant luminaire and such things. I guess this is not in this context is not useful. The GLDR files should be still slim. Not so heavy, so heavy. They should not replace a complete database or something like that. So
it's technically possible, but makes no sense. So it's not usable. You have the same situation with RFA files in Revit. If you can also technically, you can put the complete catalog of a manufacturer in one RFA file. But it's huge, and it's not really to operate with it. And the access to this tree of products is not really useful for end user. And the same on GLDF. So GLDF has the variants are thought about. You have different maybe heads on a Lumina, different LDCs, different lamp sets, and so on. This was thought by creating this variants model, and not to go through a complete product series in one file. But yes, in a way, manufacturers should have in future. This is the idea behind. just GLDF and not other formats like ROLF, ULD, and RFA also, and OLMDATS, IES, and so on. So most of the manufacturers has a couple of options to download, so up to 20 in different formats, 3D stuff, and so on. And GLDF should replace it all, so that you have just one data export, just one structure to communicate with the Lumina users in a digital environment with GLDF. This is the idea behind, to substitute everything else with GLDF in kinds of Lumina data transaction. Okay, I think that I already the L3D editor and GLDF editor, but the software did not work. Please, could you give an email of someone or to contact me? I have issues to install. It's not really to install. You have seen it in our presentations. This is just in web browser, and in the web browser you open up the GLDF editor, and the L3D. This was also live. It's not faked on a hidden server. This is just the internet, and GLDF.io. This editor works quite fine.
Yes, and please try it once again. And if you then still have questions, please send us an email to support@relux.com, and then we can give you a personal answer.
On GLDF.io, there also are support emails in the tools section where you can also put down any issues you have with these tools. Could be that there are failures and bugs in these applications. They are quite new. Since March.
It's more or less alpha versions.
Yeah. But there's nothing to install on it. So there's not in support to install it. It's just open up in a browser and put your files into it and work with it. Okay. Last question, and then we have to come to an end. Will it be possible to export the designs and import GLDF files into Revit? Yeah, a similar question. We have it already. We hope that we have the workflow as close as possible with RELUX, with Revit and GLDF together. Also, an export of in AutoCAD would be possible if Autodesk wants to do it in a way, but all our tools will use GLDF files in any direction. And yeah, so this is also the most easiest way to communicate with Luminas. Okay, then we are on the end.
On the end. Let's say last words is our next episode, episode 15. Yeah. It's at the 27th of October, so we are in the same level.
Yeah.
And there we will talking about 3D modeling in RELUX. Not really something new, but just for, I guess, something interesting points for our users. And in difference to that, what we have to do today, there you will have the possibility to use it directly into RELUX. Yeah. And we hope we're looking forward to see you the next time, and you have also fun with our episode today.
See you in a month.
See you. Bye.
Bye-bye.